Feel free to call me old, but have you played with one of these growing up? If so, comment down below if you have, and for those who haven't played one of these, it shouldn't be too hard to figure out how this works. Put the discs at the top, then pull the trigger and the disc will shoot out. Now in 7, what does this have to do with First Descendant? Well, this is what I see when using the Malevolent, which was released in Season 2, Episode 2. The Malevolent is an impact weapon that focuses mainly on clearing rooms of enemies rather than single target damage, because its ammo isn't typically what you think. Let's take a look at the perk of the gun. The perk, Malicious Pain, hitting an enemy creates a bladed cog. This bladed cog bounces between multiple enemies dealing damage. On hitting weak points creates additional bladed cogs. So let's break this perk down a little bit. Shoot the weapon at the enemy and the cog will split into 3 if you hit the body or 4 if you hit the target in the head. Each of these 3 or 4 cogs will bounce a total of 5 times, so you can imagine that this can get crazy very quick. Let's take a look at the readjustment stats now. I went with firearm crit hit damage, rounds per magazine, toxic attack because Malevolent's element is toxic, and last flat firearm attack. For cores, Malevolent has 1 wildcard slot, meaning you can put any core you want in it, 1 orange slot, 1 blue slot, and 2 green slots. For my rolls, I went with Toxic for my wildcard, Flat Firearm Attack, Toxic again, 1 round per magazine, and 1 fire rate. Let's take a look at some of the builds I made, and feel free to modify them to fit your playstyle. Alright, before we get into the builds, I will look over the Arche Tuning because this was a request from my last video from the Alpha Cavalry. So for Arche Tuning, I'm just going to focus on the left side, just focus on this icon here, it enhances firearm attack, just go into the gold as well as much as you can, and multi-hit damage is very nice, especially for Malevolent. For components, I would say either Annihilation or Volcanic set. Annihilation for the extra fire attack when at low health, or Volcanic with the hand cannon damage buff. Alright, for the first build, this is going to be focused on Toxic only because Malevolent has a toxic intrinsic trait to it, and it can work on any Descendant, but I highly suggest trying it out on Freyna because she just amplifies this gun stupid crazy with this build. So we're going to go into Rifle Reinforcement, Action Reaction for Flat Firearm Attack. Weapon tuning, we're going to be focused on flat firearm attack. We don't really care about crits or anything like that. We're just doing flat firearm attack with this one. Bullet rain, fire rate, firearm attack. Marksman, we don't really about the crit rate because it doesn't matter. We want that firearm attack percentage. Charge amplification, negative crit, that's fine. Firearm attack is increased. Now for our elements, toxic enhancement, toxic circulation, and toxic conductor are really good ones for just amplification of the weapon. But here's the thing though, with toxic conductor and toxic circulation, when attacking enemies inflicted with poison, your firearm attack is increased by 26% as well as your toxic attack by 89.6%. So when using Freyna, you just skyrocket. And the last mod right here is multi-percussion sights, multi-hit chance, negative crit hit rate, we don't really care about. So when all is said and done, I've been able to squeeze about 33k per bounce. And that is if you're getting a lot of bullets down range and they're splitting up and bouncing, you're dealing a lot of damage in a lot of in a few seconds, which is quite crazy. So 33k bounces. For the second build here, I wanted to focus on the multi-hit mods that was released in Season 2, Episode 2, but also this is going to be helpful for pretty much any other Descendant besides Freyna, because the toxic one I would say focus more on Freyna, but if you're wanting to use another Descendant, this one build will help them because this will just keep up with the damage that Freyna can output in her build. Nothing's too much changed. Rifle Reinforcement, Action Reaction, Weapon Tuning. Now I wanted to change the fire up one here because I noticed that with the other one, with the attack, your damage output compared to Freyna's toxic one is a little bit lower. Don't ask me why, but the fire rate here, just trust me, this works. Marksman here, change amplification, not changed right there. Stance stabilizer, we want the firearm attack percentage. This is changed from the toxic. We want to keep the toxic enhancement just because Malevolent has toxic. We want to amplify that as much as possible. Our multi-hit one is the multi-bullet. Deep wounds deals equal to 3% of the firearm damage as regular intervals, and with Malevolent proccing so much, it just constantly is up, which is nice. So you're just inflicting deep wounds, and that's how you can keep up the damage compared to Freyna. And then multi-percussion sights, multi-hit chance, crit hit. So nothing's too much changed except for the stance and multi-bullet one. But this one can definitely keep up with Freyna. You're averaging about 24k per bounce. Now for this third build, I wanted to see how much of DPS numbers I can push on the left side of the screen. And I want to say that do not use this build. And you're thinking, well, in 7, it's almost 2 million damage output. Why can't I use it? Well, I'm going to show you an example that even with Freyna's Toxic Inductor proc and Poison, you're dealing less damage compared to multi-shot and toxic shot. So what I'm finding is that you have to sort of find a fine balance between what numbers look good on paper compared to practicality and synergy. And this is a good example that, yes, it looks great, it looks high damage and all that, but practicality, you're not going to deal as much. So just want to preface and be careful that don't let the numbers take you over and you're like, why am I not dealing as much damage? Look into kind of builds and see, all right, what kind of mods are actually helping each other out instead of just pushing the DPS number as far as you can. So final thoughts on this weapon. It's a very fun weapon to use in general. If you're looking for a weapon that you need to clear rooms of enemies very quickly, Malevolent has you covered. Enjoying seeing your blades fly around the area, and I'll see you in the next video.